It began not with gunfire, but with silence, the kind of silence that hums beneath history, waiting to detonate. The year was 1940, and Europe had become a battlefield of smoke and surrender. The skies above London roared with engines, cities turned to rubble overnight. But beneath the chaos, in the dim rooms of intelligence offices and intercepted signal centers, another kind of war was taking shape. A war fought not with tanks and bullets, but with whispers, misinformation, and human ingenuity. Across the continent, invisible armies of spies, double agents, and codebreakers moved like shadows through enemy lines. Their weapons were lies dressed as truth. Their victories were stories no one could ever tell. This was the invisible battlefield, the war behind the war. The Allies were desperate. Germany's war machine seemed unstoppable, its operations swift and precise, guided by networks of informants and encrypted communications. The Wehrmacht advanced with confidence, bolstered by the illusion that its intelligence was untouchable. And yet, somewhere deep in that illusion, the seeds of its downfall were already being sown. The British Intelligence Service, MI5 and MI6, understood something the Axis powers did not: that control of information was control of destiny. A single misdirection could shift an invasion, delay an army, or save an entire fleet. And so, while bombs rained on Britain, another army assembled quietly, its soldiers armed with deception instead of rifles, their mission to outthink, not outfight, the enemy. In smoky rooms lit by the glow of wireless equipment, operators listened to intercepted German signals. Analysts pored over names, coordinates, and ciphers, seeking patterns that could reveal the Reich's plans. Messages passed through filters of secrecy, decoded, rewritten, and twisted, until lies became weapons. It was here, in this world of half-truths and invisible victories, that the true front lines of World War II emerged. The war of intelligence had no uniforms, no glory, and no certainty. Success meant invisibility. Failure meant death. Behind every military maneuver, every whispered decision, there were minds working in silence, unseen and unsung, bending truth until it broke the will of an empire. And somewhere among those faceless operatives, an ordinary man was preparing to play a role that would defy imagination. He was no soldier, no officer, no scholar. Yet his name would one day echo through the archives of espionage as the man who deceived the Führer himself. He would use nothing but letters, words, and flawless audacity to rewrite the course of history. His name was Juan Pujol Garcia, and his war was about to begin. Juan Pujol Garcia was, by every measure, an unlikely spy. He had no military training, no formal education in intelligence, and no connection to any espionage service. He was a hotel manager's son from Barcelona, polite, observant, and profoundly ordinary. Yet in the midst of war, ordinariness was the perfect disguise. Beneath his calm exterior lived a burning conviction. He despised fascism with a quiet fury. Watching Hitler's armies devour Europe, Pujol made a decision that would shape history. He would fight the Nazis in his own way, not with guns, but with deception. The world knew him as nobody. Soon both sides of the greatest war in history would know him as everybody. He first approached the British, offering his services as a spy. They turned him away. To them he was untrained, untested, and irrelevant. But rejection only sharpened his resolve. If the Allies would not take him, he would find another way in. And so, with audacity bordering on madness, he turned to the enemy. He walked into the German embassy in Madrid and introduced himself as a devoted supporter of the Third Reich. He offered to build a network of agents across Britain who would send him valuable intelligence. The Germans, impressed by his confidence and apparent access, recruited him immediately. He was given invisible ink, coded phrases, and a mission: infiltrate England and report on Allied operations. The spring of 1944 brought the tightest secret of the war: Operation Overlord, the Allied return to the continent. To protect the landing at Normandy, the Allies built Operation Fortitude, a vast masquerade pointing toward Pas-de-Calais. At its heart stood Garbo. Through him, the Phantom First Use Army Group, under General Patton, swelled on German maps, complete with fake radio traffic, dummy camps, rubber aircraft, and supply orders that rustled convincingly. Garbo's network reported troop concentrations in Kent, rehearsals along the Dover coast, and logistics consistent with a short channel crossing. Each message was timed to fit what German analysts expected to see: never too perfect, always human. On the night of 5th June, he sent his most delicate warning, crafted to arrive slightly too late. The invasion was imminent. Berlin received it after the landings began and judged the delay evidence of authenticity. Hitler, convinced by months of corroborating detail, held elite divisions near Calais, waiting for a main blow that never came. Meanwhile, on the beaches of Normandy, men clawed forward through smoke and seawater, and precious hours were bought by ink. Garbo continued to insist that Normandy was only a diversion, narrating phantom preparations for the decisive strike toward Calais. German commanders, still captive to the story they had helped complete, hesitated. The hesitation became space. The space became momentum. The momentum became liberation's first irreversible turn. When the bridgehead held, Garbo received thanks from Berlin and, in sealed rooms, quiet honors from London. A single imagination, perfectly aimed, had altered the weight of history without ever leaving a desk. In that careful interval between doubt and decision, divisions stayed idle. Trains were not requisitioned. Fuel was not moved. And the sea, not the map, decided the day's truth. When the guns fell silent, Garbo did not march in parades or stride across balconies. He vanished. The British honored him quietly. The Germans had already awarded him the Iron Cross, never suspecting the betrayal. Peacetime offered no stage for a man who lived inside fictions. So in 1949 he faked his death and slipped away to Venezuela, running a small shop, reading, and letting the world forget. Decades later, the archives opened and historians followed the paper echoes to a modest, aging man who received their attention with shy surprise. He spoke without triumph. War, he said, is fought by minds as much as by weapons, and lies, once told for mercy, have a gravity that outlives victory. His story is a paradox written in clear lines. A civilian who saved soldiers. A loyal servant doubly decorated by enemies. A ghost whose greatest achievement required him to remain unseen. Modern intelligence, information warfare, and strategic deception trace filaments to his desk in wartime London. He showed that belief is a terrain armies must cross before they reach any shore. That is fitting. The lesson he left is not a monument, but a method. Build a story that the enemy needs to hear, let them help complete it, and their certainty will hold them still. Juan Pujol Garcia, the man called Garbo, proved that imagination, disciplined by purpose, can outfight fear and steel. His war ended long ago, yet its echo persists wherever truth and falsehood struggle for command of the same horizon. In that echo, one hears pages turning, wires clicking, and the quiet courage of a life lived off stage, precisely where it mattered most.